Call the dogs in because you're listening to the Field Master Podcast. All right, everyone. Welcome back to episode number 7 of the Field Master Podcast, brought to you by Sportsman's Pride Professional Dog Food. We're back, like I said, with episode number 7.
Lucky 7.
Lucky 7.
Mm-hmm.
777.
Can't get any better than that.
You can't. You really can't. We're back with Ryan, and as always, we've got Caleb in the background making sure we look and sound good. We have a very special guest today. He is from Sportsman's Pride. That's Rickie Hitt. Rickie is the National Sales Manager for Sportsman's Pride Professional Dog Food. Welcome, Rickie.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We're excited to have you. This is something that we've been talking about doing for a while because it's very unique, especially, being presented by Sportsman's Pride, where there's a lot of things that we talk about. A lot of our other guests, we talk about their dogs and things like that and kind of the outdoor world. But now we kind of get to dive into the weeds a little bit of the dog food world. And so we're excited to have you with us.
Thank you.
All right. So like I said, Rickie is the National Sales Manager for Sportsman's Pride. So he goes all over the country to promote Sportsman's Pride, sell Sportsman's Pride. He's talking with a lot of feed stores and things like that. So kind of in our first section, what I wanted to talk to you about is, the state of pet food over the last few years. We are just kind of coming out of the pandemic, and a lot of things that happened during the pandemic really shifted not only the U.S., but the world as a whole when it comes to supply chain and, different avenues of getting things. So, one of the first things that I really wanted to touch with you on, because I know I get it as, a social media manager every day interacting with customers, is, how the pandemic changed the landscape of retail. So what's kind of one of the ways that you're seeing, consumers are now wanting to get their food based on what previously it was like before the pandemic?
Well, a lot of shifted to the omni-channel, of course,
Right.
and how some of the local stores have adapted. That before the pandemic, they had no omni-channel presence. They didn't operate in that sphere. So what they've done now is you can order it online, come by the store, they'll bring it to your car, or they'll deliver it to your house. So that they have, a lot of the independents have adapted to keep relevant in this industry that is changing every day,
And to clarify the different channels for people who might not know, like when we operate in sales, especially in pet food, for example, we've got grocery channel with all your grocery stores.
Correct.
We got drug channel with like CVS, Walgreens, and those. Dollar channel, even with Family Dollar, Dollar General, and all the different dollar and value type of stores. And then you have mass, which is what your Walmart, your Target, Costco, and then farm and feed. And you're more talking about farm and feed and independent pet.
Yes.
So it's your mom and pops, as well as your Ace Hardwares, other examples.
In some parts of the country, like there'll be a Mills Fleet Farm or a Blaine's or a Rural King.
Yeah.
Those are
like Tractor Supply.
Tractor Supply.
Mm-hmm.
Those are your farm and feed type stores.
Yeah.
But there are normally multi-stores, large locations, and they had some of that already, but not to the level they do now. I mean,
and when you said omni-channel, and from what I understand, that's the brick and mortar. It's you walk into the store, you look at the shelf, you buy something, or you walk in and you will get them to order it for you and then pick it up.
Yeah.
Omni-channel
meaning
Online.
omni everything.
Yeah.
You add online and brick and mortar in the same location.
Right.
Yeah.
So, because some of the states, they were not allowed to have customers in the store. So they would process the orders, put them outside on a buggy or whatever, have their name on them. The customer would come by and pick it up. And, if they didn't do that, then a lot of them would have went out of business. So they had to adapt, just like everybody did during the pandemic, us included.
Yeah, and quickly too, because
Yes.
I remember when it first started and everything. We lived in Memphis at the time, and Memphis got hit very hard by the pandemic. I mean, a lot of businesses closed down, and it was truly the ones who adapted to doing something like that curbside pickup or, delivering to the houses. There's a branch of pet stores there that, they essentially built their own delivery fleet because of the need to adapt. And I think those are, truly the ones that, made it through because they had to.
It's like a whole new skill to learn too.
Yeah,
because a lot of these places don't have a website that can handle e-commerce.
Correct.
Yeah.
A lot of them had to learn on the fly, to update all that. And some of them just still did it by phone. Some of them, like you said, they did build a website or a Facebook page where they could do it.
Yeah, and I think that's important too, because we'll talk about it later on in the episode. But with Sportsman's Pride, we're in a lot of like family-owned feed stores. Like I talk to a lot of food stores when I'm trying to do some advertising for them or something like that. Who, their main business is calling, and it was difficult for them to shift to, okay, we have to not only figure out how can we have customers at the store safely, but now how can we also be a delivery service, and how can we also be, a procurement center? Right. And so, there was a lot of challenges in the beginning.
I can see how that would be just intimidating to get into, especially that's not their forte.
Yeah.
Right? And that you're one day you're a brick and mortar and you're the pride of whatever part of the city that you live in.
Yeah.
And that you service, and then the next day you're competing with Amazon, or you're now I'm
Right.
I'm up against Chewy or whatever it is. So it's a whole new world for these guys.
It's hard, but one of the things, it wasn't just the the brick and mortar stores that were having the issues, but really there was supply chain challenges as a whole. And, we saw everything from trucking to warehouses filling up to labor shortages and things like that. So can you kind of talk about how, from a pet food industry perspective, how do you navigate some of those challenges, especially when, we joke all the time at the office, pet food industry never slows down. Pets don't care if it's Christmas or, whatever, we're still going. So how do you navigate some of those challenges?
Well, it was tough to start with, because we had to learn a lot of different things to do. We had to, our lead times changed. We went from 7 days to 14 to 21. And then, and at that same time, we would line everything up to be made. And next thing we know, we don't have an ingredient, didn't show up in time.
Yeah.
So, and then we had to adapt, change orders and to get people's product. But it has gotten better in the last year. So now everything's shipping normally pretty good. There for a while you couldn't even get trucks. You try to get somebody that haul the product, they'd tell you it'd be there in 2 weeks. Well, the customer's order, so he's been waiting on an order for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They run out of product, and that's never good. And but the only saving grace was our competitors also didn't have. They were the same. They were doing the same thing. So.
Yeah.
That's why they call it a nationwide shortage.
Yes,
Every turn you made.
And and capacity has continued to grow over the last 3 years, and currently right now it's I've never seen the demand for pet food like it is right now, especially when you look at the economy food or the mid-tier or some of the, which I wouldn't call the super premium, but premium food.
Mm-hmm.
That business has really grown over the last year due to inflation, because the guy that was paying $100 a bag for a bag of dog food, now that bag's $130.
Mm-hmm.
And so they went down in price. So what you've seen is a whole shift in pet food, whereas the last few years it's always been more expensive. Now everybody's kind of recentered on the pet food back to the value price foods.
Yeah, and it's going to come back around to being difficult to service still.
Yes,
because if you shift from super premium down to premium or even value, the calories per kibble are less in those value items. So you're shipping and creating and manufacturing more product to service the same amount of dogs or the same amount of nutrition. Whereas if you had the super premium, you'd actually be manufacturing less kibble, but more dense.
Right.
Yes.
So I mean, if you really look at it on a grand scale, you're looking at more trucking and more shipping and more labor in order to get that stuff done. So let's hope all that
But
stays like on an even keel,
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
so we can keep servicing everybody.
Right.
You know,
right. So it's gotten better. So we're shipping on time most of the time, but there has been some fallout. A lot of brands have gone away because they cannot get product made, and some of your national companies just said, okay, I can't make enough food, so I'm cutting the SKUs I don't sell a lot of.
a lot of holes on the shelf the last two,
Yeah.
3 years, like you've never seen before.
Yeah, especially cat food.
Cat food.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's it's interesting because like I obviously wasn't in the pet food industry before I started here, but it's a lot of people get tired of hearing supply chain. And until you work in an industry where that truly matters, you don't really see the impact that it has. Once again, talking about like holes on the shelves and stuff. If we don't have, let's say, chicken, for a week, that backs up orders for who knows how long. And so, as much as people want to say like, oh, the supply chain thing, like it's not really that big of a deal, until you're in one of those industries or it affects you on a day to day. I've never worked in an industry where the price of chicken is so crucial,
Or chicken fat.
chicken fat to what you do. Yeah. So it's really interesting to see how, especially when I first started coming off, truly kind of like the bell curve of the pandemic, going down to kind of leveling out, you start to see these things kind of taper off and get back to somewhat normalcy.
Yeah. I mean, we went from, on packaging on the product, we went from normally about 7 to 10 weeks max, and next thing we knew that we were up 25 to 30 weeks on packaging.
Yeah.
Well,
That's between the order and actually getting a bag.
correct.
So I mean, you could have all the product in produced and in bins, but if you don't have a bag to put it in,
Right.
you don't have a product.
And that happened pretty much overnight.
Yeah.
And so it's gotten a little better, and we're planning for it now, but it kind of caught everybody in the whole industry flat-footed,
Yeah, well, not only that, I mean, not even supply chain side, but then you had to look at labor side as
Yes.
well. I mean, you want to keep people safe. You want to make sure that, everyone is able to work and you're able to produce. But at the same time, how do you get things off the shelf when you got people who are homesick and things like that? And, I know we've kind of talked about it, one-on-one and stuff, but, we're starting to see the demand pick up and stuff. So, we need to bring more people in and things like that. And that's returning to normal as well.
Yeah, and opening up more shifts and some extruders that can come back online and things like that. So capacity-wise, it's looking good. Sportsman's going out the door.
Yes.
It's
On fire.
It's
On
in more
fire.
bowls than
It's
ever
in-
before.
It's in more bowls than ever before.
And,
Yeah.
we continue to have wins every week with
Registered
the product line.
trademark.
Yeah. So, we got past the pandemic, in some aspects, but what are the challenges even today that, some local pet stores and shops are currently facing? Because, we get customers who, the main thing that I hear now is, it just sells quick and it just moves quick. So what are you seeing as far as like new consumer behavior, or, is it the battle for online shopping that, is kind of challenging some of these local stores?
Yeah, I mean, the convenience of online shopping makes a huge difference in this industry now. Whereas, 7 years ago, there was hardly no presence online for as pet food. And now, I mean, you've got all the major retailers plus the guy we won't mention.
Well, they figured out how to ship it,
They
or
figured out
they
ship-
figured out
yeah.
that they're going to lose money and
Yes.
ship it.
Yeah.
And ship it.
Yeah.
And and that's where a lot of companies, independent pet guys, had to adapt either with their online presence or some offering delivery service or stuff like that. And a lot of them have. The ones that didn't adapt or didn't change, it's been tough for those guys. I mean, it's you got to change or you fall behind.
Have they seen the same kind of holes on their shelves as the grocery and mass stores?
Not
have?
as much as grocery, because a lot of them don't carry the brands that's necessarily in the grocery stores.
Right.
You know, some of the national brands, and our capacity got tight because we couldn't get the product made, or for some reason or another. So, you know, we went from, like I said, 10 days to 21 days. Our competitors did the same way. And so they didn't really have anywhere else to go to get pet food because, you know, independent pet, they don't want the brands in the grocery store.
Yeah.
They want a brand that kind of loyal to them, and that you don't want to carry a food that they got to buy from them, not buy from every other retailer out there. So the ones that makes those adaptations, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
So would you say that in local farm and feed stores, you know, specialty pet stores, is it almost easier to get food? You know, let's say for some reason there's another shortage or something. Is it easier to get food from an independent feed store or a farm and feed than it is just like a regular grocery store? You know, let's say like a mass store carries the same brand as a, you know, farm and feed. Is it easier to get it from a farm and feed because you don't have to worry so much about the bigger distribution, or is it?
Yes, most of the time it's more concentrated on so they don't have to, where you take some of the major retailers that paint their stores are painted in blue, they get X number of product every week, and they've got 20,000 stores to fill.
Yeah.
You know, so so they may not have enough product to go around to all the shelves. So the independent pet guy normally has more product, but he also offers a better service.
Yeah, I guess I've never thought of that because, you know, if you've got, let's say, you know, a big mass store that gets 3 pallets a week for something, they have to divide that up between so many stores. Where if you go to a local farm and feed, you know, they have those 3 pallets sitting there waiting for you. I guess I've never thought of that. I mean, it makes complete sense, but, you know, so it almost makes me kind of beg the question, though, you know, during those times of the shortages and stuff like that, did farm and feed outperform the larger retails, you know, stores just because of being able to get more concentrated amounts of the food?
Well, your independent farm and feed, or your branches like Tractor, Rural King, and all those guys, and some of the pet specialty stores, their business really took off because the customers was at home, you know, and they went to the local feed store or farm store, because they also gardening went through the roof.
Yeah.
And all kind of hobbies, all the bees and all that stuff increased.
Yeah.
So they were in that store more often. So, and they had more, so their business was great over the pandemic.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and you're also selling higher volume, or I guess higher volume per purchase or per transaction of pet food out of those stores than you would, say, a grocery store.
Correct.
Where a grocery store can fit, 3 to 5 bags per SKU on the shelf per item.
Yeah.
You know, you're looking at a pallet at some of these other places. And I know several stores back in Nashville. I went to a lot of different Tractors and things like that. They'd sell by the pallet out of the back constantly.
Because
You're not going to get that out of a grocery store.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And most of your farm and feed guys, that customers is a multi-dog owner. You know, they have 2 or 3. In some cases, they'll have 8 or 9, depending on what they do with the dogs. You know, whether they hunt or whatever they do with the dogs. They have more pets all around.
Yeah. It's side note. It's funny that you mentioned the hobbies, and like, you know, during the pandemic and stuff, my parents own a farm in Lafayette, and bees were their thing.
Oh, yeah.
They like got big into beekeeping and stuff like that.
Beekeeping is huge right now.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think a lot of people are, you know, that and eggs. If you have chickens right now, you are, you're doing well.
Oh, chickens laying golden egg at the price of the eggs are now.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. All right. Before we start talking about what to look for in your dog's feed, we're going to take a short commercial break.
What does a trainer do? Yell and stomp when you mess up? Watch from the sidelines while their team carries.
What are you talking about? No.
When it comes to creating a champion, there aren't many who know better than Curtis Treadway. Curtis builds his retrievers to compete at championship level, bringing out their love for the sport and their mastery in competition, and savoring every minute of it. Curtis trusts none other than Sportsman's Pride to help him build his champions. Is it the right balance of protein and fat for drive and stamina? or the antioxidants. Maybe it's the hip and joint care in every bag.
It's all the above.
Experience the Sportsman's Pride difference. Developed by experts, trusted by legends. New Sportsman's Pride Fieldmaster High Protein Dog Food. Available now.
All right, we're back with Rickie Hitt, the National Sales Manager for Sportsman's Pride Pet Food. So, Rickie, you know, obviously we just talked about kind of the production side and some of the things that, you know, we've gone through recently with the making and the delivery of the pet food and so on and so forth. But, you know, one of the things that I want to talk to you about is, you know, you get to see people from all over the country. You get to talk to different business owners, pet owners, you know, people who are in the sporting world. You know, one of the things that I think is really interesting is people are you know, really trying to figure out what do I need to feed my dog? What is something that I need to look for in my pet's food to make sure, you know, they have the best performance? So, you know, I kind of want to talk to you about that. What is it that you think people need to be looking for, you know, in Sportsman's Pride, but people need to be looking for, you know, their pet's food?
Well, the first thing when you look at the ingredients of the product, you need to make sure that it's a meat protein is the very first ingredient, whether it's a meal or fresh. Either one's just as good as the other, and you can debate back and forth which one's better. But as long as you have a meat protein, that's your first ingredient. That's the main thing. And then you kind of look at the vitamins and minerals. You really look into the GAs. You want to make sure, depending on the dog, you know, you got especially large animals, medium to large dogs. You want to watch out for the sodium, the calcium, and all that kind of stuff for the bones. You also want to make sure they've got glucosamine and chondroitins for the bones and the joints. You also want to make sure you got omega-6s for the skin and the coat, you know, which is guaranteed in the Sportsman's Pride through the Omega Pride. If you feed Sportsman's Pride for 3 weeks, the dog will have the best skin and coat to any dog you ever seen. You know, that's, and also, you know, it's I reckon a 4-letter word you want to say. It matters what goes into the dog, but the most important thing is what comes out of the dog.
Right.
You know, you want firm stews. You want, you know, and you want them to be because the less that comes out the tail end, the more your dog's getting out of the food. You know, most of your sportsmen is going to run around about an 80% digestible product. So what goes in versus what comes out, and you know, you want Tootsie Rolls on the floor.
Right.
And
well, and especially with Sportsman's Pride, like a lot of the, you know, dogs that we're feeding are at kennels.
Yes.
And are, you know, training, and that matters to people. You know, you don't want to have to be hosing down, you know, a lot of, you know, 4-letter words. But, you know, it's really important what, you know, they are getting as far as that, quote, end product, because you don't want to,
You're avoiding this hardcore.
I mean, we're trying. I don't want to have to mark this episode, you know.
You don't have to mark it if we say stool.
I mean,
so we're at,
yeah.
There's a surprising amount of talk about stool when we talk about any kind of dog nutrition, and we're talking with dock divers, and we're talking with kennels, and we're talking with show dogs, or we're talking with you know, breeders, anybody, and they all focus, like when they try new dog food, the testament to does this work or not is what kind of stool they have.
Yeah,
that's it.
Well, we've asked people, I mean, who are, you know, we're looking at being potential ambassadors and things like that. We asked them, you know, one, what does their stool look like? Because, you know, if it's not working for them, then they need to get on a food that does work for them.
Correct.
You know, and so, yes, we were talking about stool. We weren't, you know, we're trying to avoid it without, you know, coming right out and saying it. But yeah, it does matter. It definitely does matter.
We don't need to skid around that. We can just go talk straight into it.
Yeah.
All right, so like
no skidding. No skidding. No, I got it. Yeah. We left our mark on that that section, and I think we can leave that
All
there.
right, let's go to number 2 here.
Well, the other thing that I wanted to touch on too was the glucosamine and the chondroitin, because that's something that we included in our feed that a lot of people apply additional to other feeds as like a topper or something, or an extra, supplement. And, that was a big thing for, I've got a pit bull named Oreo who had 2 knee repairs. And, unfortunately, because of her, she's got like the stomach of a super sensitive puppy, where she has to be on this very specific food, and we have to also give her glucosamine and chondroitin and stuff as a supplement. And that's what's great about Sportsman's is it comes already included. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's what a lot of times the professionals that we have, whether it be an ambassador or, someone we're trying to tell them about the food for the first time, this is included already. It's not something that you have to go out and add. And that's something when you're looking at pricing, to be considerate of as well.
It's the same way with omega-6s and 3s.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, some foods have very little, so a lot of people give their dog the salmon oil or whatever. It's already in Sportsman, so in that omega-6 and 3 makes the skin coat, and it helps with you to make your dog the most prettiest dog on the block.
Yeah, and there's like immune function benefits as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Skin, coat, immune system, and the ratio between the 3 and 6 is what our food experts at Sportsman's have figured out over the decades that we've been doing this, and where we can put that guarantee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where 30 days, you're going to see a huge difference.
Yeah. One of our ambassadors, Brandon Thompson, who is a friend of the podcast, we actually, when I first started talking with him, he was putting salmon oil on the food. He was putting glucosamine on top, like a lot of toppers and stuff for his lab Odie. Mm-hmm. And when I talked to him, I'm like, hey man, like you don't have to put that stuff on there. I understand like if you want to continue it for a little bit to,
like a
make sure,
thing.
just to like, make sure he's doing okay and stuff. But I mean, he took him off all of that because it's already included in the food.
Yep. Must have been feeding Victor.
Well,
oh no!
You know what? I won't say what he was feeding, but
hey, there's a lot of brands out there.
There's a lot of brands, and one of them does rhyme with. Anyways, we're gonna move on.
Gosh, that almost went into a dangerous territory.
We're gonna move on.
Well, before we move on, because you were talking about the different benefits of Sportsman's Pride, and we hit the Omega Pride, which is our omega 3 and 6. All of the formulas also have antioxidants with your vitamin A and E,
right?
Mm-hmm. that help support the immune function. So you have two things kind of coming at different angles with your omegas and your antioxidants. And then also what's new to some of these formulas is the probiotics.
Yes, and all formulations now has probiotics and prebiotics in it. When we did the major Sportsman's update with the new formulas, we made sure that anything had got the Omega Pride logo on the bag had all the requirements of the omegas, the 6s, the probiotics, prebiotics, mm-hmm. and glucosamine and Jordans. And some have different levels of glucosamine and Jordans depending on what kind of dog what you're feeding the dog. So.
And those probiotics can only help with that most important thing that all dog owners are looking for is that digestive health, and the good looking stool. So
yeah, make sure that their mark is made. So
we're gonna hit those a few more times.
We're gonna go through it. Yeah. So the other thing that that sets Sportsman's Pride apart too is we're made right here in America. I mean, kind of right down the street on the other side of Alabama in Red Bay. We make Sportsman's Pride, and a lot of times, people may not be sure of, hey, where is this coming from? Where, I know that was a big thing in the pet industry here, just a few months ago. It's like, where are all these things coming from? Pet mm-hmm. nutrition has really taken off for people wanting to optimize their pet's health. And it's nice to be able to say like, hey, we're made right here in America. Mm-hmm. We like to joke that, Red Bay is the pet food capital of the world, and we're glad that Sportsman's is part of that mm-hmm. for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Rickie might be able to tell a little bit more about the company itself as far as family owned and where they have gone.
Yeah, I mean, been family owned since the start. I think we're on the third generation with the fourth generation in training. So it's still owned by the Bostic family, and I think it will be for the foreseeable future. So you're not buying Sportsman's Pride. You're buying it from a family, not buying it from a big corporation. So and that means a lot to a lot of people. So we employed friends and neighbors. So it's great to work for a family company instead of a huge corporation.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we kind of touched on this a little bit a minute ago, but Sportsman's does have new formulas that have come out, and that's, all natural super premium options, new high protein, new classic high performance items. So Sportsman's has gone through a revamp a little bit.
Yeah.
And so can you kind of tell us about all the different options there are for Sportsman's Pride now?
Yeah, when me and Ryan started this project, 3 years ago?
No, not that long.
It's 2 years ago.
Maybe
It's
2 years.
Right when the pandemic hit.
Right when everything doubled in time.
Yes.
For delivery. Yeah.
So we started during COVID, and it was a struggle to get packaging some stuff's taking 6, 7, 8 months to get packaging. So we finally got everything somewhere. Last fall? Finally got everything in. Before we redid the revamp, we had 4 SKUs basically. Now we have 9, I believe. We have, we got a 2112, and it's getting a packaging update. But basically, that's for your older dogs or your dogs who sit on the porch with you all the time that's not really active.
Right.
We've got 11 products.
Oh, okay, 11. So and then we have a 2618, which has been the star of Sportsman's Pride forever. Or as some of the local guys call it, I want the red bag.
Yeah, the red classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we didn't change anything there, just updated the packaging. And then we came out, we had some customers wanting something a little stronger in fat, so we came out with the 2420. And one of the major difference, other than being more fat in it, if you flip the bag over, it's 3 times the glucosamine and Jordan's in it that it is in the 2618. So if you got a dog that does a lot of work, or you got a dog that has a lot of hip and joint issues, that would be the formula to feed.
It supports that high energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Supporting the joints at the same time.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
a lot of people that are feeding it, they're running their dogs.
Right.
They're that's meant for a working dog.
That makes sense.
Every day. Yeah.
And then we kind of we divided Sportsman into 2 categories now. We have the classic, which is the red bag, and the yellow bag that we always had. And we also added an active adult and puppy to the classic lineup. So you have a dog that a food that you can feed your puppy, or you're a really active adult, or the female, she's lactating.
Yep.
So then we came out we did what we call the Fieldmaster brand. And that's a division of Sportsman. When you go to the Fieldmaster, that means it's no corn, no wheat, no soy, for sure. It is all the Sportsman's products are 100% natural, no artificial flavorings, colors, or preservatives. So it's an all-natural product no matter which one you buy. But when you see the Fieldmaster, that's your super premium.
Yeah, now you're premium.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a puppy food called Champion Puppy. It's 3221, and it's probably the best puppy food on the market. If you want butterball puppies, that's one you feed.
Yeah.
And then we have that's been probably one of our best sellers for the last 2-3 years is the LID.
Oh yeah.
Which is a limited ingredient.
Yeah.
diet.
Yeah.
Basically it has your basic ingredients, plus it has all the stuff that omega-6s and 3s and all the other stuff you're supposed to have in Sportsman's.
And more unique is it's a turkey.
It's
formula.
turkey, yeah.
Yep.
So the protein number 1 ingredient is turkey, and it's been a great product for us. And when you look at it, a lot of the professional guys, that's the formula they go to. And then we just added a high protein, a 30-20. And that's for the dogs who's really active, whether he's a dog or a hunting dog or whatever. If they're really active, that's the formula for them because it gives you the extra protein and fat that you need. Because so that your dog won't lose weight while you're working him.
Yeah, if your dog's used to high pro
Yeah.
type of diet. You know that turkey dog food is something we should have considered for NWTF.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That would
100%.
a nice play.
It would have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always next year.
Yep.
There's always next year. Yeah.
And then we added grain freeze, we added a salmon, and then we added chicken. So if your dog's sensitive to any kind of grain, you now have a food that we didn't have before in Sportsman. You know, you didn't have the option to have a grain free
Right.
product.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also added a complete line of treats, and they all hip and joint treats.
Yeah,
all
that's
but
what-
one.
That's what I want to talk about because these are brand new. I mean, within
Sportsman's hadn't had
6 months,
before.
I think
Yeah.
within 6 months,
Yeah.
these have just came out and they are taking off. I have people ask them for me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have a biscuit and a soft chew. Duck is the protein in the jerky. Chicken is the protein in your biscuit.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need any supplements for the hip and joint, especially if you're feeding some other brand, you need something to help the dog out. Feeding the Sportsman's Pride treats and biscuits.
Well, and not only that, but the one that I get requests for most often are the Perfect Partner training treats.
Yes.
And those I think are really unique. I'm not seeing a lot of other people do that besides like really specialty stores carrying them. And, you know, we're making them more available for, you know, those training scenarios. Like I said, with Sportsman's Pride, we have a ton of people who are, you know, training hunting dogs, dock dogs, security dogs, so on and so forth. And their reward a lot of the time is a treat. And, you know, they're tired of, you know, snapping a biscuit 4 ways and stuff. Yeah.
Carrying cheese in their
Carrying
pouch that's
cheese
all
or, yeah.
muddied up.
Yeah. And so now what we've offered is, you know, they're probably only the size, not even the size of a dime, but I mean, they're,
Even
I
smaller
think they're
than
around about
tiny.
a quarter inch,
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
and what's great is they're only 3 calories
Mm-hmm.
per treat. And so you can give them, you know, multiple throughout a training session without worrying about throwing off their diet or anything like that.
Yep, and you feel good about it. Like Rickie said, meat's the number one ingredient in all of these. And if you get into the Field Master brand, then you're looking at kind of fresh protein. You're looking at the chicken is the number one ingredient,
Right.
or duck is the number one
Or
ingredient.
turkey.
Yeah, you're not
Yeah.
looking at meals or anything else.
Any byproducts? I mean, none of
Mhm.
that. It's
No.
yeah, it's great. So with Sportsman's Pride, we've kind of hit on it a little bit throughout the episode, but you know, where is the best place to truly find Sportsman's Pride at?
Well, the best place is your independent farm and feed store. And, you know, if you go in there and they don't have it, ask them to get it. They can get it. And if they don't know where to get it, they can always contact Sunshine Mills, you know, through the Sportsman's Pride website. And we'll get back to you probably within the next day or that day to help you locate it. You know, and then you can also buy it online at certain retailers. But, you know, the first place to go look is your independent pet or your independent farm and feed channel, because that's who we are. You know, we don't sell any of the national chain Sportsman's Pride. It's mainly geared for the independent or the farm and feed trade. It's not made for the mass merchants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that I didn't know coming into the industry several years ago. But you know, if it's not carried at your local store, that doesn't mean you can't get it.
Correct.
They order from the same distributors that carry our brand and everyone else's brand, and it's a simple ask to the store manager, and they would never know unless you did ask. So.
Right. And if they don't seem to want to help, you can call us, and most of the time we can figure out a place you can get it from locally, or, you know, because like I said, we have some national distributors that can get the product to these stores if they just let us know.
Yeah, and I want to make sure people understand what we're saying. You know, we want you to go to your local farm and feed first.
Correct.
We want you to ask them for the food because that's so important, especially with, you know, being family owned and, you know, having the kind of the generations behind what we've done is, you know, we support a lot of local people. That's kind of how Sunshine started. It was a local operation, and it grew and it grew and it grew. So We want people to go to their farm and feed. We want people to go to, support their local businesses. However, if you are in a remote part of the U.S., whether it be somewhere out west or, something like that, that you can't necessarily get it from a farm and feed, you can carry it. You can get it online. It is on Chewy, and you can get it there. But
And you can also get it on our website.
yeah, you can also buy it directly from Sunshine Mills. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough. To support your local communities is to support your local feed store. They're the lifeblood of some communities, especially some around where we're based out of.
Yeah.
And if you can get it there, more power to you.
Yeah, and if you need help, just contact us. I'll give you Ryan's personal cell phone.
Oh, see, I was just getting ready to say we were putting your name and phone number up on screen right now. You don't know it.
I think Rickie's is already out there. So
yeah, there you go. You can contact Rickie directly.
It'll be the next Easter egg hunt. Someone can turn that in, win a prize.
That'll be it. All right. Well, Rickie, thank you so much for joining us on the Fieldmaster podcast. We greatly appreciate it, and it's given us a really unique insight on kind of the pet food world and Sportsman's Pride as a great opportunity for us. So thank you.
Thank you, and look forward to all the phone calls for people hunting Sportsman's
That's
Pride.
right. There you go. You got it. All right. Well, thank you for listening to the Fieldmaster podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media at sportsmans_pride. If you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, be sure that you subscribe on your favorite podcast app like Apple or Spotify. And if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify, you can watch the video version on our YouTube page. Just search for Sportsman's Pride on YouTube. Make sure you leave a thumbs up and review the podcast. We'll see you next time.